Well, you're still watching the marketplace. Let's move on to the trade market because the African Continental Free Trade Area celebrated its first anniversary on the 1st of January this year. Since Africa officially started trading under this single pact, the practical impact of the agreement have been minimal. Disruptions of global supply chains due to COVID-19 restrictions in 2020 limited AfCFTA's potential. Amid the challenges, the Secretary General Wamkele Mene is forging ahead with hopes of publishing a tariff book which includes the rules of origin and customs procedures regarding products. Now, this will be in February as negotiations still are ongoing. Well, let's now connect with Mr. Frank Ajokum of the Secretary. He's the Secretary of the Ghana, Executive Secretary actually, of the Ghana International Trade Commission. We're grateful, sir, that you could join us on the program. First of all, the Continental Free Trade enters its first year with the never-ending discussion on the rules of origin, which is the intersection between the trade and the possible industrial policy. What must give to ensure there is progress?
Well, thank you very much and pleasure to be on. What must give is that everybody should be of one accord in the sense that we must have an agreement across country lines as to how much percentage you constitute original goods from your country and which would constitute foreign addition to the product. So these are things that have been worked on. You don't have easy solutions to this because there are different products and different makes and different mixes. So the only thing to say is that there's goodwill and everybody's trying to work towards it. We need time in these things because you don't have quick fixes in this. And as I said, it's for everybody across board, all the countries, to then be able to say that these are comfort zones or this is what we think we can go ahead with. And there should be a kind of minimum threshold that could be accepted across board. Then we can move forward.
Interesting. Well, let's talk about the interference of external partners pushing the agenda of divide and rule with, Kenya's free trade deal with the U.S. as a case in point. How can the Secretariat whip signatories in line without seeming to distort a free market system?
Well, those are a dicey issue in the sense that once the Secretariat is not fully ready to have the policy fully implemented, countries are able to they can't stand still, and they must then be able to go ahead and do some of the things that they have to do. For instance, Ghana did sign an interim economic arrangement with the UK, and where there's interim, and in doing that, Ghana reflected very much on what ECOWAS was doing in terms of its trade agreements, so that when we come into full session to implementation, we are then able to synchronize in such a way that if even there are disparities, there are not a lot of disparities. I believe that is happening around the continent. But then I agree with you entirely that it's about time that we had a single trade agreement across board, since that's what we are heading towards. And since not all the countries, as you know, are ready, we'll need time to get some of these things done. Don't forget that this trade agreement is just 1 year old, and many countries are now beginning to adjust their systems and their procedures to fit into whatever we have been signed on to. So yes, while we're in a haste, we should be mindful of the peculiarities of the various countries, and also of the fact that even as countries need to move ahead. So we realize that everybody is working towards ensuring that the terms and agreements to each other under the trade liberal agreements are fully implemented. So I can only think that time would get there, but now we should hasten slowly.
All right, Mr. Ajokum, hold on for us. I want you to take a listen to the Secretary General of the, AfCFTA Secretariat, Wamkele Mene, after which we get your response on the concerns regarding the lack of capacity.
Typically, trade agreements are negotiated in phases and implemented in phases. And so I think we should expect that this will not be any different from trade agreements around the world, whether it's a WTO or indeed other regional trade agreements, they do take time. They are very complex, very, very technical, and have far-reaching obligations for countries that negotiate them. And so countries tend to want to take quite a lot of time to deliberate on the implications and the obligations that they are undertaking. So I am not particularly worried. On the contrary, I think that we have a lot to in terms of to celebrate the fact that in less than 5 years, we've negotiated a comprehensive trade agreement. Yes, there are still some outstanding areas, but as I've just noted, that is typical of the way in which these trade agreements are negotiated. We have reached about 87.8% agreement on rules of origin, which is a very, very high threshold of consensus for product-specific rules of origin.
Of course, that was, an update regarding the pace at which we are when it comes to the continental free trade. Mr. Jacome, you have heard the, Secretary General. How much of a concern is the lack of capacity in the Secretariat to push the agenda of a single African market, given its launch in the middle of the pandemic?
Well, I'm not too sure of the lack of capacity because I didn't hear him say that, but as has been said, and as the Secretary General did rightly say, we need time, and these things take quite a bit of time. You are dealing with countries who have to change their systems that they've been operating all of a sudden and get into the free trade era. Yes, and as much as I know that many countries would want to do that, we also have to understand that can't all be on the same playing sheet at the same time. And as you realize, even within the procedures, we have certain goods that can be liberalized 90%, 90% of goods that are liberalized 0% from now on, some that will come on board 5 years or 10 years from now. So it's all because even at the signing stage or the preparatory stage, we realize that not everything can be brought into the system at the same time.
Exactly.
And at the second, we have to go in phases. So we are going in there, and in terms of capacity, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not too sure the Secretariat has come up with any such issues, but I'm sure if there are, they will be addressed in due course.
We're grateful, Mr. Franco Jacome, that you could help us with your analysis on the situation regarding the single market and prospects for 2022.